Hello and welcome. My name is Michael, and in this quick video I'm going to review the book Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender by Dr. David Hawkins. Now, first I admit that I'm coming at this review from quite a biased angle, and that is that I'm already quite a huge fan of Dr. Hawkins' work. I first discovered Dr. Hawkins' books, Power versus Force, his first book, back in 2008. And since then I've read a number of his works, and each book is quite remarkable and quite transformational for myself. However, this book stands out. Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender. Why does it stand out? This book, more so than his other books, is incredibly practical. It's pragmatic. The other thing about it, it's incredibly simple to understand and to apply in your daily life. You don't need a huge background in complicated philosophy. You don't even need a background in psychology, because your own human experience is probably enough to understand most of what he's talking about. And he just lays things down in such a simple, almost, it's so simple it's almost funny. And simplicity is usually an indicator of truth, and that is exemplified through this work, through this book in particular. So one of the main things he explains really well early on in the book is what he calls the mechanism of letting go and how it works. So it gives you a very step-by-step process that you can apply in your life in order to allow uncomfortable feelings for you to deal with uncomfortable feelings. And this is really the crux of it. Most of us human beings, we don't know how to deal with uncomfortable feelings. And this is what is causing most of the suffering, most of the disease, and all these things, because no one's really told us how to deal with uncomfortable feelings. Obviously, school never taught us how to deal with uncomfortable feelings. So human beings have developed a kind of coping mechanisms to deal with uncomfortable feelings. And he goes into this, he explains, but I'll just touch upon it here. As the first one is suppression or oppression. So we feel an uncomfortable feeling, and then straight away we sink it and we store it. Suppression means that we do it subconsciously, so we're not really registering it. Oppression means we do it consciously. So for example, if you feel angry, you don't, in most cases, depending on the person, you feel, so you get triggered, there's anger, but instead of, expressing it or punching someone in the face, you bury it down so that your psyche, hopefully, can deal with it later on. But the problem is that we don't really get around to dealing with it because we don't know how to deal with it. So this creates tension inside the system and starts messing with the system, causing disease. So that's the first most common way that we deal with uncomfortable feelings. The second one is we express them. And this can mean, talking to a friend, punching a pillow, and all these sorts of things. And this tends to relieve some pressure, but he says that it does not eliminate or allow the full processing of uncomfortable feelings. So you'll relieve some pressure, but it's not fully processed, and it will actually build pressure over time, and then you'll have the same issue again coming up later on. That's the second way. The third way is that we avoid it. We avoid it. And this is really the fundamental heart of the entire entertainment industry. Movies, TV, even casinos, sex addiction, drug addiction, anything where we are constantly distracting our attention so that we're not fixated on the uncomfortable feeling. This is so common. And these three are the most common ways that human beings deal with uncomfortable feelings. And the essence of understanding this is that none of these actually help us process and let go of uncomfortable feelings. So he then goes on to explain how you can let go of uncomfortable feelings. So when an uncomfortable feeling arises, you can allow it. You can observe it and let it pass through. And he says, and from your own experience and from your own from your own experience, you'll notice that when you don't resist it and you allow like sadness to pass through unhindered, is that eventually it runs out of energy. When it runs out of energy, it leaves you. The tension leaves you, and you can move on to the next process. So that's a very quick introduction into what the book is all about. He then goes on and later in the book and he explains the different various emotions that we experience, from guilt, how guilt tends to work, how shame tends to work and starts destroying us, anger, desire, pride, and then we move up into higher states of consciousness, which is willingness, courage, the intellect, and then love, higher states of love. And he talks about in each area of this human experience how the letting go process plays out, what tends to happen. And it is just so clear and so profound. As with most of Dr. Hawkins' work, when I'm reading it, I feel like he's talking to me. It feels like he knows pretty much the full entirety of the human experience. He was, his background, he was a psychiatrist for over 50 years before he became a spiritual teacher. So his work is really well suited to the Western mind. And his language is such that he can put complex terminology into a very relatable, very practical frame for the Western person. And that's why I find his work so profound and so helpful. So that's it for this video. That's it for this review. Basically, it's a 10 out of 5 kind of star review. I think it's probably one of the most profound and most beneficial books that anyone can read about, which will help them improve their understanding of their own psychology, understanding of other people's psychology, understanding how well-being works. It's just so profound and so simple that I highly recommend it. And so if you have any questions, let me know, or if that's helpful, please leave a comment so that you can share this video, gets more traction, and we can share this book and these teachings by Dr. David Hawkins. So that's it from me. Hopefully it's helpful, and I'll speak to you again soon.